Nanka right here, Dustin right here. Hopefully y'all won your fantasy championships.
Football.
Using this video to just kind of look back. Who was the fantasy MVP? Lots of people to consider.
Adrian Peterson?
No.
No. Ray Rice? No.
It was Dagger. Lots of things to consider. How did they do? Where were they drafted? How'd they do down the stretch? That's why Peyton Manning's not on this list. But Brent, start us off. These aren't in any particular order, and we do have a vote going on the website and on our Facebook page. We're trying to get a little community stuff going on, so we want to hear what you think.
This kind of comes because we've had some debates about this, so I want you guys to settle the argument. First guy on this list is Le'Veon Bell. I actually love this guy as a vote. Might have gotten mine. And it's because where he got drafted before the season, LeGarrette Blount was there, and everybody's like, oh, Blount's going to vulture all his touchdowns. He's going to get no touchdowns. But then we also already lost some weight. But he was at the
drug charge.
Drug charge, smoking the dope. And so what ended up happening was he ended up slipping end of the second. In one of my leagues, my big money league that I won, I ended up getting him actually at the start of the third round, which is crazy. Crushed that league, won it. Either way, due to the fact that Blount smoked weed and yelled at the coaches or whatever, left the team, 34% of all the offense. I loved Le'Veon Bell, the value, and what he did. That took very long. Go ahead, Doug.
Aaron Rodgers is the next guy. And yes, you drafted him early as your QB1. You wanted him to play as a QB1. And he did play as a QB1. But it's just the consistency with him that you had with him all year. 5 interceptions. I mean, that's just... to play all season and throw for almost 4,400 yards and only have 5 interceptions. And that's the stat that Rodgers is most proud of. And I like Rodgers even more because of that. And 270 rushing yards. I mean, that's a sneaky little stat for him. He's a guy that was just good all year. He's definitely worthy of a nom.
Next, he won a lot of fantasy championships.
Oh boy.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Too.
I love how his nickname's ODB as well. Love that. 91 catches, over 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns in only 12 games. That's what's the most impressive part about this. This kid was amazing, just the catches. Dustin was saying to me, well, it was a couple days ago, who else gets people to show up early to a game to watch pregame warm-ups? He's just better at catching a football than everybody else. It's a weird thing to say, but it's true.
It's disgusting.
He's the best guy at catching a football. So down the stretch, he was amazing. Love Odell Beckham Jr.
Next, we do have a guy that did disappoint down the stretch.
Fizzled.
Andrew Luck. But you got to consider him because he got people to where they needed to be. He may not have sealed the deal for you, but he was a guy that went far enough in drafts to where he gave you great value, and he was amazing almost the whole season. Threw for over 4,700 yards, 40 touchdowns. I mean, he's the #1 quarterback next year in my mind, just because it's just that little bit more of upside than Rodgers, because we don't really know what Luck's ceiling is quite yet, I don't think.
And he falls into the end zone all the time. Next is Gronk, and this is one of those things where if you gambled and took him, because he was slipping in draft, Julius Thomas, Jimmy Graham both going over him, he kept slipping down the boards. If you gambled and did take him, you were rewarded. It took a little bit of time, but you ended up being rewarded. And the biggest thing about Gronk is his above replacement. So really this year, even Julius Thomas really fizzled. And Jimmy had those up and down stretches. So if you had a guy like Gronk, you were crushing your opponent every week in the tight end position. So it's really gives you a huge advantage. That's why Gronk's making the list here.
Antonio Brown.
Love him.
What a year.
What's up, RG3PO betting me, saying he was terrible. Just throw it out there, FST smack talk, if you would.
129 catches. I mean, this guy, he can do it all. He's not just a guy that goes deep. He's not just a guy that goes short. He can do everything, and he showed it. 13 touchdowns. I mean, this guy certainly can make an argument, for being #1 receiver next year. And he's right there in the mix. Maybe even, can you say, first round? The guy was amazing for where he went in the drafts, even though he went fairly early. Great return on investment.
All right, next on the list is, and that's a little foreshadowing, we will be doing a top 10 list.
It's coming up.
And he will make the top 10 because he's silly good. Todd Haley offense, they threw the ball so much. I'm talking not about him, I'm talking about DeMarco Murray. Over 2,000 total yards. His biggest thing was always the injury bug. He got over that this year clearly. Even's been currently still playing with a broken hand, doing just fine. You heard a lot about the offensive line. That's not going anywhere for next year, but we're talking about the MVP this year. if you owned him, he went through that stretch 100 yards and a touchdown in so many games. He got a lot of people in the playoffs, even did well in there. DeMarco Murray is certainly the reason people won fantasy championships. That's why he's nominated for Fantasy MVP here at Fantasy SmackDown.
And we got to throw Russell Wilson on this list as well, just because if you waited on a quarterback and ended up getting Wilson, the rest of your team was probably pretty solid, and Wilson ended up being great for you. I mean, only threw for about 3,400 yards. You know, we say only, 15 years ago that would lead the league, but 849 rushing yards. You know, he's really one of the only quarterbacks that can still make the whole rushing thing work for them, and Seattle just does it perfectly. And Wilson, because of what he did with his legs, he definitely got people far into the playoffs and won some championships for people.
Got another Seattle guy for you, and that's Marshawn Lynch. And again, this is kind of where he was drafted. He, every week, started slipping farther and farther and farther, I'm saying that terribly, down draft boards. And he ended up doing exactly what Marshawn Lynch does every single year. 1,600 total yards, 13 touchdowns. Beast mode is a beast. He's been a beast. Guess what's going to happen to him next year? He's going to slip out of the first round, and he's probably going to do it all over again. But those are your fantasy MVPs.
We got one more. The last person on the list, Jordy Nelson.
Jordy
Nelson. Now,
Jordy.
It just seemed like every time I looked up, he's scoring a 60-yard touchdown. I mean, this guy's amazing. Him and Rodgers on the same page, 13 touchdowns, only 98 catches, but over 15. Over 1,500.
Did you say only 98 catches?
Well, when you say 1,500 yards,
right,
he only had 98 catches.
Yeah, I'm with you,
I mean, his average was insane. This guy's amazing. He'll be huge next year as well. But those are nominees.
Who are you voting for?
Get onto our website. We have a page on there where we're asking for people to vote, and we're getting on the Facebook.
I'm switching my pick. Who's your pick?
I think I picked Le'Veon.
I think I did too. I'm switching. I'm going DeMarco Murray. He was a beast. He was a beast.
I was between Bell and Beckham, just because Beckham won championships.
Beckham.
Even though he kicked me.
Thanks for trading me in the keeper league, Beckham. That's great.
I won that.
You did win. You got Dez. That was a good toss. That was a good pen flip. That was even better. That was like 6 rotations. Go for 10.